Well, welcome everybody to episode number 2 of the Hunt Backcountry podcast presented by Exo Mountain Gear. On tonight's show, we have Steve's co-founder in Exo Mountain Gear, Lenny Nelson. We answer a bunch of listener questions, which you sent in, so thank you. You can always get in contact with us, whether you just have feedback, a question, or just want to get in touch, at podcast@Exo Mountain Gear. And we also want to say we appreciate the reviews on iTunes and elsewhere. The feedback from the first episode's been great, and we're looking forward to taking that feedback into consideration for future episodes. So tonight's one of those kind of shotgun, scattered topic episodes. We cover, mule deer tactics, out-of-state elk scouting, a little bit about the Exo Backstory, some new Exo Accessories, dumb rookie mistakes, and camera gear for Pure Elevation Productions. So, get in touch with us. If you email us or leave us a review, such as Joe Basile did this last week, we will send you some Exo swag, just like we're going to do for Joe. So here's episode number 2 with Lenny Nelson. Cool. So, Lenny, you were Steve's sidekick in a few endeavors. First Pure Elevation, then Exo Mountain Gear. But before we get into any of that, what's your short backstory on getting into hunting? And was it something you grew up doing, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I definitely grew up doing it with my dad. We grew up over in central Idaho, so it was definitely always a part of our life. My grandfather, he lived up in Cambridge, actually, here in Idaho, and, he had a 210-inch typical buck on his wall, so it's definitely been in the family, and I've been around it my whole life.
That's awesome. Just an old-school giant muley?
Oh, yeah, totally old school, like, haul it off the mountain in a Jeep, and, don't even do a full mount, just cut the antlers off, hang it up.
Yeah. Idaho had there was a heyday back in the day. What was that, like in the 50s and 60s? Where there's just a ton of giant muleys coming out of there? Yeah,
exactly. And, he actually tells a story of even a bigger buck, but he had a house that burned down, and it burned down with the house. And so, yeah, and I remember going out in his old woodshed, because he lived on a big ranch, and going out in the woodshed, and there's just like 180 bucks just thrown in the rafters. Gosh. And, I was always just amazed. And, to him, it was just like meat. Didn't even matter.
Yeah. Do you did he say, or did you ever ask, did they hunt for a big deer like that? Or it was just like, wow, there's a giant deer. It came. I need some meat. Let's go for it. Was that just like the first, or one of the first deer he got an opportunity to get? Or did he hold out for something like that?
No, I don't think they really ever did hold out. I think it was just whatever kind of poked its head out first. And I think there was just a ton of mature bucks running around at that time. And, it's funny. I don't think he even really thought much of it. Even, up until when he died, I think it was just that's what they did.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. So what's one of your first hunting memories then? Of your own hunting?
Oh, actually me hunting?
Yeah.
I actually went with my brothers. I have there's 5 boys in my family, and the youngest is my sister. And so my 2 older brothers, we went hunting, and I drew a doe tag, and I was probably like 12 years old, and we were up on my grandparents' ranch, driving around my brother's 4x4 truck, which I thought was so cool, and we bust up these deer, and have like a 30-30 lever action. And I just start popping off rounds with them jumping.
Nice.
Yeah, and of course I shoot the fawn.
Yeah.
But I was so stoked. I was just like, my first animal ever. And I think I was like 12. And I was with my brother. So, honestly, it was a great experience. Went back, and, my grandpa, he's all proud of it because he's all about the meat.
Yeah.
And, hung it up with the tractor, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. So diving into backcountry hunting, what is the dumbest rookie mistake that you made when you started, sort of hunting the way that you do now in terms of backpacking or bow hunting or anything like that?
Probably, the one thing that got me really turned on to it, I'd rifle hunted for a long time, and I read Mike Eastman's like Hunting High Country Muleys,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally read that book like 10 times. And so come that next summer, I'm ready to go. And I remember him talking, he's hunting in Wyoming where there's a deer behind every bush. And here I am in Idaho, and I'm looking for the highest peaks in Idaho. And he's talking about how they're like in the highest peaks and the gnarliest crags. And so I just go to like the tallest mountains in Idaho and go straight past the tree line. I get up, and there's not an animal. I mean, there's
just nothing
there's
on
not a
them.
badger, there's not a squirrel, nothing lives up there. And I'm like, where are these bucks? Okay, there's got to just be one.
That's so funny.
And I'm kind of bullheaded. So I did that for about a year looking for these things. And, on the way down, I'd be running into deer. And I'm like, well, no, that's not where the big ones are. I got to go high. So honestly, it took me about a year to figure out that Idaho is a little different than Wyoming.
Yeah. Wow. So that's interesting. Going back to your hunt last year, Steve, how different was it to hunt that mule deer in Wyoming versus hunting where you guys do in Idaho?
I don't know. That's a tough question. It wasn't like this. It was a night and day difference, but at the same time, it was still hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's. There was for every 5 deer we saw in Idaho, we'd see 25, the same amount of effort over there. I mean,
wow.
And the biggest difference was every buck was 20, 30 inches bigger.
Yeah.
For us, some of our general units, it's tough. I mean, we go out there, and if we see a couple 150, 160 bucks, hey, that was a good weekend, and we'll find a few 170s, 180s, but over the course of scouting, we were just up scouting. Lenny and I went Friday night for a quick trip. We'll find a couple of 170 bucks, but that's 5 guys covering a lot of different country. So, Idaho, our high country, we just don't have the genetics and the giant deer anymore. Some of if you want to kill the big bucks, you got to go out in the desert, but that's no fun to hunt.
Right. Well, we're on the topic of mule deer. I actually had a reader question from somebody on Instagram here. He was wanting to know, when you guys are archery mule deer hunting, what time of day do the majority of your stalks take place, and why do you think that is? Specifically, I guess, in Idaho. I mean, I know that for sure this guy was from Idaho.
Right. Late afternoon, I'd say.
Yeah, we have a pretty, it's basically an exact formula.
It is.
I will spill it, man. Let's hear it. All your secrets right now. Give it away.
It's sit on a peak, find an area that you can glass a lot of country. We focus on areas that are huntable. We've been guilty in the past of finding a big buck somewhere in a spot that is just not very easy to hunt, and your odds just go down a lot. So focus on areas that are benchy, and you got rocks and stuff like that you can actually make stalks happen.
Yeah. So you're looking for small terrain features where you guys can maneuver.
Yeah, versus big giant open basins terrain. Exactly. Okay. Whether that be rocks and just the ground and trees and whatnot. Yeah. And then, what do we do from there? Like glass them up first light and sit there.
Yeah, pretty much get on the peak where you can see the most area possible. And you definitely want to be on the side where they're going to bed on. And, it's literally, if you can't bed them down and see where they bed down, you may as well give up.
Right.
If they go into a bigger timber patch, in our opinion, you may as well wait for the next day or that afternoon if they come out. And literally, you got to watch them lay down, see where they're bedded, see which way they're facing. Are they facing uphill? They're facing left, they're facing right, they're in front of the tree, behind the tree. And then, then from there, it's just a plan.
Yeah. Well, typically we'll wait for the thermals. What often happens too is, I know some bucks Jason and I were hunting in Wyoming last year. We spot them. They bed down about 9, 10, but Jason's 190 buck actually, the one day he stalked and got close, he bedded down about 9:30, 10, but we knew the sun was going to hit him in an hour, and there was no way we were going to make the stalk happen that quick. Yeah. So I always call mule deer hunting, high country mule deer hunting, it's a chess match. For elk is just this chaotic, fun mess.
Right.
Right. And mule deer's a chess match. It's sitting there, and they move, you move, they move, you move. And usually the stalk ends up 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We try to have as much patience to let the thermals start going uphill. Let there be a little bit of breeze, cover your noise, and then you go in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely, everything seems to happen in slow motion. If you try to push it, it will never work. It's just patience, patience, patience.
Yeah.
So is that, I guess you're running against the clock in terms of like, if you get too late in the afternoon or into the evening, like you lose, oh, he's not going to be bedded, he's going to get up and go feed. I mean, is that, so that's also, I guess, the flip side of being patient? Or no?
Yeah, but here, I mean, in September, the days are so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get dark until 9 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
And so those thermals don't change. A lot of times, those bucks won't get up till 6, 7 o'clock. So, by the time you bed them 11, 12 o'clock, you can kind of have a 5-hour window to get it done usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some long, slow, hot afternoons. I remember Lenny's buck in 2011. It was like the worst experience of my life because I was running camera and we got to this like rocky point. We could glass the buck below us, and it was too technical of a stalk to get in there for me to follow. So I was going to stay on the peak and watch. And Lenny snuck down there and parked right under the shade of this tree. And I'm sitting on this like 20-foot slab of rock with no shade. I literally got down to my underwear, and just like by the end of that day, I was sunburnt and just sweating my ass off.
Oh, man.
And he's over there laughing, just like he's just parked in the shade waiting for the buck to stand up. So, but that does happen too. Is sometimes you get into a spot and you get so close and you're kind of stuck, and then it's just becomes a game of chance of, do you let that buck get up and feed and hopefully feed closer to you or feed into a shooting lane, but you're playing the game with the thermals there because eventually they're going to switch on you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing probably I've learned is you got to let the buck make the mistake. That ups your odds significantly. If you try to, you're on their terrain, on their time. If you try to force something, you are going to get busted and it's not going to happen.
Gotcha.
But if you are able to wait long enough and keep the thermals in your favor, eventually they're going to make a mistake, and that's when you're successful.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That makes a ton of sense. So, when you guys are doing that and you're set up and you're being patient, I mean, especially with like the other guy, because you guys are often hunting together. Do you guys use like hand signals and things like that in case the shooter can't see the buck? Is that what you typically rely on?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've never been consistent about it. It's always like a last minute. All right, Lenny, if I both hands up, freaking touchdown signal, you're good.
Yeah.
Or waving arms left and right, stop. So usually, we haven't really had that many times where hand signals was like a make or break.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to picking terrain that's huntable. That as Lenny was talking about, you have to see where that bed bucks, and then I'm convinced, and just from doing it, you have to be able to. The stalk has to happen where you can see the buck, the majority of the stalk. Mm-hmm. So you can watch him and see him. And so really as the shooter, we're picking terrain specifically for that. And it doesn't always work like that. And, like Lenny said, sometimes there was one buck I called Vampire Buck. That was the year after I was just that hunt with Lenny talking about where I was baking on the rock. We watched him for 4 days. And on the 5th day, we finally made a stalk in there. Mm-hmm. And just because he didn't bed in a spot that, we could hunt him.
Yeah. Yeah, we just used a low percentage, and it wasn't worth blowing it.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned you were just out on a quick scouting trip last weekend?
Yep.
So you guys are doing that at this time of year. I mean, do you guys find, particularly with mule deer, that they're still in that range when opening day rolls around? I mean, is it too early to count on that?
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
They're pretty much in the exact same spot they're going to be on August 30th by this time of year.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and again, I have hit some years we had a really heavy snow year. But, this year was a light snow year. It's been really hot. There's a ton of feed in the high country already. But, yeah, so I'd say majority of the time, the week after the 4th, they are where they're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you went middle of June, they may or may not be there, or half are there, half aren't. But by mid-July, they're where they're going to be.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And there's few exceptions. I mean, if we find a bachelor group of bucks in one basin, We go back 3 weeks later, they're going to be within a mile or two. Maybe you miss them, but they're just on the other side or something. So they are pretty predictable in that sense. As long as they're not pressured, they become pretty patternable.
Cool. So on the topic of scouting, and this is actually another reader question or listener question, and this is coming from Elkaholic, so I'm sure he's somewhat wanting elk intel, not just mule deer, but when you guys are doing out-of-state hunts, which I know you guys do hunt a ton in Idaho, but when you are looking at out-of-states or, say, a new area, besides putting boots on the ground, what specific things are you looking for when you're scouting a general area on Google Earth or, via Topo Map or something like that? I mean, it's hard to obviously judge those fine things like we were talking about earlier with the small terrain features, that make an area huntable. So are you guys looking at water sources, just general topography, cover? What's the sort of the big picture if you're looking at a new area or looking at a new state?
So we're talking elk or deer?
Yeah, I mean, let's do elk.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, obviously for elk, water is huge. And it's really, you just got to find those feeding areas, the bedding areas. And then also for us, we're looking for those areas that are somewhat remote.
Yeah.
And then, probably, the other thing that we really look at is we look at those areas that are not obvious. If you're going to the end of the road where the trailhead starts, probably where everybody else is going to go. Right. But if you go to that drainage that's a mile or two before the end of the road that maybe doesn't go quite as far back, we've definitely found a lot more success in kind of finding those one-off places. They're maybe not as big, but they're not as obvious. And so we definitely spend a lot of time looking for those, that one drainage that maybe runs north when all the other drainages, kind of run west, and it's kind of the one-off drainage. And we've had quite a bit of success looking for those type of areas.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Speaking of, really haven't hunted out of state too much. I've been in Nevada and Wyoming. Wyoming last year, like Lenny said, looking for remote spots. I mean, the first thing I'm going to do is jump on Google Earth and get a road and a trail map and compare the two side by side. And then I think it's just kind of like solving a crime, right? Yeah. You just start looking at all these different areas and eventually you get funneled into a spot. And then the sweet and short of it is you got to get there and put your boots on the ground. So for you come out to, Colorado or whatever to hunt and you're just hunting an area you've never stepped in, like to me, that would be a very tough task.
It is. It is.
That would be really, really hard to do. I mean, I want to go scout an area 2-3 times before I go invest, a week to hunt it. And elk in general is tough because if you're scouting, you're really looking for habitat. Hopefully you're going to see a bunch of cows, and also signs of the rut, so rubs and things like that. Because if you go scouting and you see a bunch of bachelor groups of bulls, that's probably the last thing you want to see. Because more often than not, come middle of September, they're not going to be there.
Yeah,
they're split up and chasing cows.
Yeah, right. Or if they are, they're going to be mostly immature bulls, just kind of hanging out by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we do. Like we were going back to comparing Google Earth and a road map. I mean, we pretty much take and try and overlay those and just start to build out radiuses, like shade in, like, here's a mile within this road, a mile within that road, and just kind of cross those spots out. And then exactly like you were saying too, Lenny, guys will flock to navigate to some established trailhead where everybody's taken off from there. And so, sometimes it's not even going the deepest, but it's going just where others won't think to go.
Exactly.
And that can be key.
Yep.
Cool.
And there's definitely a lot of places that, as the crow flies, it could be a half mile, but it's as tough as hiking 5 miles.
Right.
And, it can literally just be on the other side of a road from, other side of a ridge from a main road, but it's really steep, it's gnarly, and it's not very good hunting in that first half mile. But as soon as you get over that, it can be really good hunting, and people tend to overlook that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and other natural things, like guys won't want to cross a river or a pretty big stream. If you're willing to do that, you may not have to get very far away, just because
Exactly.
they're not pressured there.
Yep.
Cool. So let's back up. That was awesome information on elk and mule deer hunting, but let's talk a little bit more. So Steve, this kind of came up last week about how you met Lenny and Pure Elevation started. You basically made it sound like, Lenny stalked you down and then was like, hey, let's start hunting. So Lenny, what's your version of that story?
Yeah.
What's the real story, Lenny?
What's the real story? Well, it was kind of funny, because I met Steve, and I'd been to some local bow shops, and they weren't very good. And Steve kind of sounded like he knew what he was talking about. So I'm like,
so you figured it out, the truth.
Yeah. So, and this is coming from a guy that I had no mentors bow hunting. I mean, I literally bought a bow off eBay for $100. I hunted my first year with my quiver upside down. I had no idea what I was doing. So I think it was maybe my second or third year, and I met Steve, and so I was kind of starting to get the hang of it. And
you had your quiver flipped over by this point?
I think I did finally.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember who actually finally told me that my quiver went the other way. So he was doing some archery work, and we met, and he kind of said that he backpack hunted a little bit, but you could talk to a lot of guys that say that, but not very many actually do. Then kind of over time, we just kind of got to know each other, and I think he showed me some pictures of him actually scouting and seeing some bulls, and frankly, I've been hunting by myself for a while because it's really hard to find guys that want to hunt hard and hunt off your back. And honestly, I'd worn out a few guys, and they just kind of said, you don't have to hunt that hard, which is probably true.
Right.
But, for me, that's the whole reason I do it is, for the experiences, on my back, out by myself. And I may not kill as many or as big of bulls as some other guys, but that's not what it's about. And, when I met Steve, he kind of had that same attitude. And we just kind of clicked. And finally, I can't remember who showed their cards and said where we were hunting.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The big reveal.
Yeah, it was. And then as luck would have it, literally like as a crow flies, it probably wasn't more than
A couple miles.
Yeah, 5 miles maybe.
Yeah, wow.
Same unit. It was
Yeah.
only maybe 5 miles apart. And then it's just been hunting ever since.
The rest is history.
That's his history, yeah.
So, we talked a little bit how when Pure Elevation started, Steve didn't really have any filming experience and just thought it'd be cool to capture that. Were you the same way, Lenny? Were you comfortable with the camera, or was it all a big learning curve for you as well?
Oh yeah, I was definitely not comfortable with the camera, but at the same time, it was there was no expectation that first year that we hunted together. We just said, hey, let's throw out a camera. We felt like the hunting industry had really went to just all about kill shots, and we just felt like that's what it wasn't about. And we thought it'd be really neat to try to capture, the highs and the lows of hunting. And we just kind of try to keep the camera rolling all the time with no expectations. And it was just kind of amazing how that first year honestly worked out for us. I mean, Steve killed a giant bull. Mm-hmm. I actually killed my first bull on the last day that I could hunt. And it was just a really special season, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, that's just capturing what you can't control, which is the hardest part about hunting, but it's what makes it so awesome when it all comes together. Because you can't go out there with a script. You can't go out there with, this is the way it's going to be. You have to work with what you have and tell that story.
Right.
Cool. So we did have a question as well about some camera gear while we're on that topic. Basically just wanting to know in general what you guys bring. Cody James was basically asking, things like jibs and sliders make for awesome shots, but seem totally unreasonable to bring into the backcountry. So what are you guys using? Do you use DSLRs? What kind of basic equipment do you guys use?
Yeah, we joke that we're professional amateurs because we really are amateurs. There's guys that know a lot more about cameras than us. We do pack a few DSLRs, keep it really, really basic. we basically have like our B-roll interview camera, which is either a DSLR or a Sony RX100, which is a little point and shoot camera that shoots great video. And then we have a Panasonic HC 900, something like that. And then we don't run mics. We just run shotgun mics on the camera. So, I mean, if you actually talk to a technical camera guy, we're like, preschool level.
Yeah.
Definitely the wrong guys to ask. But I
mean, I think that we just kind of realized that we hunt a certain way, and we've come to grips with it that we are not going to have those amazing slider shots, and we're fine with that because that's not what it's about.
Right.
Honestly, it's about capturing what's back there, and I mean, our tools are somewhat limited, but it's just a different way of doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's going back to we really focus on capturing the highs and the lows, and our online show that's going to start here pretty soon. It ties right into us. It's just called Pure Elevation Uncut, and it's just raw, like more bloopers and interviews and just more real, because we're not production quality TV show or everything is a slider and a jib boom. And, at the end of the day, those shots look cool, but you got to have the meat and potatoes of a hunting story, which is the actual hunting for it to be entertaining. So that's what we decided. We threw in the towel, and as far as we can't compete with the Donnie Vincents of the world. We're not going to. We don't want to.
Yeah, we don't want to.
We just want to be who we are and film and have fun and put it out there. And we do it as much for ourselves as anything. We get a kick out of going back and watching our footage from the year before.
Yeah.
So
seems to me like there's a big difference in mindset too between saying we're going to go hunting, we're going to hunt hard, we're going to focus on hunting, and along the way we're going to document the story, versus we're going to go make a film, and the film happens to be about hunting. So we're really going to film something, but we're going to do some hunting so that we have something to film. And I feel like, more and more, a lot of the guys who are into filming, they're out to make a film, and then hunt, or to hunt so that they can make a film. And I just don't see, especially what you guys are describing, that it's that way for you guys.
No.
Yeah, I mean, for one, it's really not. It's almost impossible in the backcountry.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah, I don't know how some people do it.
Yeah, there've been more times than not that we've run out of batteries and some giant bulls screaming and our batteries are dead, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And we've definitely just decided to, like you said, we kind of hunt first and film everything.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's fast forward. Let's touch on Exo Mountain Gear. So Lenny, after Pure Elevation, you obviously, Steve didn't totally drive you crazy. You decided to do something really insane, I think, from my perspective, and start a backpack company. So again, your side of the story, how did Exo Mountain Gear come about?
I think I still remember we were in one of our favorite hunting spots where we hunted elk a lot, and we were always just talking about what we did not like in our packs or we did like in our packs, and how there just wasn't the perfect pack out there for us. And we tried, most of them. And, Steve is definitely the guy that, I'm kind of like, yeah, let's do this. And then Steve's like, he's doing it, and then, from there, it just kind of gained momentum, and we kind of had a basis of an idea of what we wanted in a pack and kind of on how we hunted. And we felt like that, wasn't being met, and it just kind of gained momentum and kept going and going. And it's kind of weird. Then all of a sudden we have a pack company.
Yeah. What were those specific unique things that you weren't finding that you wanted in a pack? And then how did you sort of implement that into the design for Exo?
Probably the biggest thing that is a pack that, because we wear our packs all day long with our overnight gear in them. So, I mean, they're not super heavy, but they're not super light either, 30, 40 pounds kind of all day long. And we just didn't feel like there was a pack out there that would carry that weight all day really comfortably, and then also turn around and carry out, 100 pounds with an elk. It seemed like there was either the pack that was really comfortable with your day pack stuff. Your 10, 15 pounds would move with you, was really comfortable, where you'd go get your pack frame or some other pack that just had a completely rigid, hard frame that you could pack something out with, but you couldn't realistically hunt all day with it. And so we really try to find that pack that we felt like would almost just be a part of your body and move with you all day, where you almost forgot about it. And then, but also be able to turn around and throw 100 pounds on it and pack that quarter out, and it would hold up. So that was really kind of the whole basis of, what we wanted to do.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it really is kind of hard to explain the fluidity yet the rigidity, that's there with that frame design. That's pretty wild. Cool. So I know that you guys have, speaking of, crazy hikes and pack outs and things like that, you have quite an adventure coming up, later this week, right?
Yeah, actually here in 2 days, it's very Lenny and Steve style, where we bite off much more than probably what we can chew.
So this might be the last interview with you. You might not make it out alive.
We are calling it the death hike.
Yeah. So it's the death hike. Depending on what software you use, it's between 33 and 35 miles. We're going to do it in under 24 hours. We're thinking like 18 hours. With some other guys are running Exos, and we're just going to hit the trail hard. I think we got 10,000 feet elevation.
Yeah, we're just going to be closer to 10,000 feet of elevation of climbing.
20,000. Yeah,
total.
So 10 up, 10 down. And we just think it's a great opportunity to test our gear and, talk to guys who use our pack and get out in the woods.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And help get in shape, right? That's one way to do it.
It's typical. I don't know when it was probably like back in February. We're like, man, we should just freaking do like a crazy long hike. I don't know, probably a couple beers deep sitting somewhere. And then I was like, all right, man, we're doing the death hike. And we recruited some guys. There's 8 of us going. And so we're hike the 16, 17 miles, start hiking at 8 o'clock at night on Thursday this week. Hike till probably 3, 4 in the morning, sleep for a couple hours, and then wake up and keep plugging away and do the rest. So
yeah,
it's going to be fun. It's going to be an adventure.
It is.
One of those things, if you don't have something at the end of the year you look back and remember on, you probably didn't do much. That's definitely one of the things we remember.
Right. And it's definitely our style. It's just like we always just set some really high goal, whether it's, whatever it is. And then we don't know how we're going to do it, but we do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I half joked about, that getting you in shape, but obviously that is a great way to train, albeit you can't go out for 35-mile hikes all the time.
Right.
So obviously the whole training for hunting thing, I mean, it's legit. I get it. You got to be in shape. At the same time, there's so much hoopla in the industry about it now. What do you guys do in all reality to either get in shape or obviously more preferably stay in shape to hunt hard and hunt as much as you guys do?
I think for us, it's really 2 things. Number one is mountain biking. Steve and I, since we met, we mountain biked. We've raced mountain bikes.
Is that on a tandem bike that you guys are doing that together? Is that what it sounds like?
We haven't tried that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys always want to set big goals and, go for something new. So just saying there's an idea.
Yeah. And then also, frankly, we test our pack a lot. So there's a lot of hikes that we do with, 60 to 100 pounds in the pack. And, we're always just making modification, testing different material, different, way of building the pack. So those are probably, I'd say, the 2 things that we do.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah, definitely. Neither one of us are gym guys. I mean, I could get to 2 hoots, how much I could bench or squat or whatever. We just kind of subscribe to that real life. Just get out there and hike, and riding bikes too it's great exercise. If you're in good bike riding shape, there's really not much you can't do in the mountains. So we've definitely found that out. Your lungs will be ready and your legs will be ready.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. After last season and like the story that I had written up about our pack out, some guy left a comment and wanted to know what I don't even know if I'm going to say it, but he basically wanted to know what like my max 1 rep squat was. And I'm like, I'm not sure this equates to being to be able to pack out an animal or not. I mean, I don't know because I don't do it. You know what I mean? But I think that's interesting. Just correlation between like a 1 rep max squat versus packing out an animal for 10 hours. There's a little bit of a disconnect for me.
Yeah, there's definitely a little wave or fad going through the hunting industry right now of supplements and hitting the gym hard, and to each their own.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like do what you want, just don't throw it in my face type of guy, and so whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy, whatever gets you ready, man, do it, have fun, enjoy it. But I think being modest about stuff is always probably the better route.
Yeah. Cool. So if you guys survive the death hike, what's going to be in store this fall for you guys for hunting?
We actually have a moose hunt in Alaska this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is that you're just getting dropped in type deal?
Exactly. Yep. They're going to fly us in, drop us off for 10 days, pick us up 10 days later.
Awesome.
70 pounds worth of gear each.
That's what you're allowed to fly with?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously it's a lot different hunting than what we're used to, and but I think it'd be a hunt of a lifetime.
Yeah, another pretty awesome adventure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll I think when we leave the 11th of September.
I think
right?
so.
Yeah,
to the 24th.
We'll get after high country bucks for the first week and a half of season. We open up on the 30th, and then go do that. And then when we get back, we'll have a few days left of general elk season. So hopefully we can get a couple things done. If not, we got some late season options.
Yeah, and I heard, Steve, that you drew a special tag, and Lenny's going to be your pack boy on that. Is that what I heard?
Yep. I did. I got really lucky and drew a controlled hunt elk tag that is open through early October. So
the year after he draws a goat tag.
Yeah, something's fishy.
Fishy.
I think it's a bribe.
I was the guy that if you went to a place that raffled off 99 items and there was 100 people there, I walked out of there with nothing. So
yeah, I think I saw that happen firsthand up at the shoot. You bought a bunch of tickets and came away with Jack.
Yeah, exactly. So drawing tags this is a new thing for me, but I'll take it.
Hey man, you got to ride that wave.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else new and exciting on the Exo front or?
No, we're just trying to finish up a few additional accessories that we'll get out, before archery season.
Yeah, so we're working on a bow rifle carrier. We will do a blaze orange beaver tail load panel.
Awesome.
So probably, what'd you do? Multicam? Yeah, multicam one side, and then a blaze orange on the other.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So is that still going to be the Cordura beaver tail?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then we are looking at squeezing in a lightweight bladder sleeve. We're just not sure if it's going to happen or not. Definitely going to make the other two happen before hunting season kicks off, though.
Okay. Yeah, we had a question about a bladder sleeve, actually. Can you spill the beans? Would that be something that would be for inside the pack, for between the pack and the frame, for multiple places, multiple uses?
Super light, still nylon. Probably tape the seams on it so it's waterproof-ish. It's not gonna be a dry bag, but just something super light. That way you can put your bladder in something. Right now, when we designed the pack, it was all about simplicity and functionality, and not one thing does a specific job. It does a bunch of different things. And a bladder pocket fell right in line with that. Of you got 4 different places to put it, but there's not a dedicated place for it. Some guys want a dedicated place, and that's what that little accessory bladder bag will be for.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, fellas. It's been a good show. I know that I especially soaked up that information in the beginning about mule deer hunting and everything else. So I really appreciate you guys sharing exactly how you guys attack those critters.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Lenny. You guys have a good night. Steve, we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Hunt Backcountry Podcast.